James Buchanan was a fucking idiot. James Buchanan was the 15th President of the United States, serving from 1857 to 1861. If you paid any attention at all in history class, then you know that he was president in the years leading right up to the American Civil War. That might leave you wondering, how the hell haven't I heard of this guy? Because he was fucking useless in office. You see, James Buchanan thought he could weasel his way out of dealing with slavery by having the Supreme Court do it for him, the lazy bitch. Not long before taking office, Buchanan wrote to not one but two different justices, imploring them to take a wide-sweeping decision in the Dred Scott case. This decision ended up being one of the worst in American history, as it stated slaves present in northern states do not gain their freedom even though said northern states do not allow slavery. The Missouri Compromise of 1820 was also effectively repealed. Buchanan hoped that the Supreme Court decision would handle the slavery question for good, but of course it didn't. The Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854 created the Kansas Territory and allowed the settlers who moved there to decide if they wanted slavery or not, an example of popular sovereignty. This was a stupid idea, as both pro-slavery and anti-slavery settlers moved to the territory. As you might imagine, these two groups did not get along, and their fight over slavery led to physical violence that would develop into the Bleeding Kansas crisis. Back to James Buchanan, his general support of states' rights would suggest he stayed out of the crisis, but the dipshit actually decided to support the pro-slavery government that had been created in the territory, which, by the way, was coexisting with an anti-slavery government in the same territory. Buchanan failed to stop the violence, and the conflict did not end until he left office and Kansas became a free state in 1861. After accomplishing effectively nothing, Buchanan's tenure was spent accomplishing more nothing as the Republican Party won a plurality in Congress in 1858 and they kept shutting down his agenda. As a final nail in the coffin, Abraham Lincoln's victory in the 1860 presidential election led to many southern states seceding from the Union. The James we all know and love said that the states did not have the right to secede, but being the fucking moron that he was, he also said that the federal government did not have the right to stop them. He even had the audacity to blame the Northerners for the secessions. Ultimately, James Buchanan was too much of a Southern suck-up who didn't want to take a firm stance around slavery, and he allowed the North and South to grow more and more at odds with each other. In the end, he left the momentous task of repairing the Union to Lincoln, like a complete jackass.